Call of Duty, a franchise which started with 3 games about the Second World War, and then we got a 4th one, which was all about Modern Warfare. Many people reckon that this is the best Call of Duty game out of them all, and I can see why. It was a big shift in the tone in the series. First one was quite revolutionary for the time, second one took it even further, third one was quite a bit divisive. Some considered it to either be a step forward or maybe a step backwards, but this one many consider to be a huge stepping stone in the right direction, and it probably was the biggest stepping stone in the right direction. This one was so good that it actually got a remaster back last year in 2016, but it came at a price. In order to buy the remastered edition when it came out, you had to buy Infinite Warfare in order to get it. Now, bearing in mind, the prices of video games these days are quite high compared to the good old days. You was paying around £50 to £60 for a game which is quite shit, to be honest, in order to get Modern Warfare. While I'm on the subject, why do I think that Infinite Warfare is shit? Well, when you look at how the franchise first began as a first-person World War II shooter, and then look at what it became, it just doesn't feel like Call of Duty to me. It's just horrible. If you want a space shooter, then play fucking Dead Space or Halo, or just fucking anything that actually makes sense to be in space. The Call of Duty franchise as a whole is one that I have been recently put off by, because it's due to all this bullshit and all these microtransactions. I'm sure I'm not the only one who has said this recently. Also, the need to use big name actors in these games now is just a gimmick these days. I wonder how many copies of Advanced Warfare are going to be sold in the future. Yeah, I know, I went there. I'm sorry. The franchise has gone downhill, and it's only this year that it's finally got back to its roots. But I think it's too late. On a personal level, I think the franchise was at its peak in the late 2000s to early 2010s, I'd say. Modern Warfare is to thank for this. There's no bullshit back then which required you to buy all the previous games just so you could play this. The world has gotten ridiculous. Now, I could go on and rant for hours about this, but I'm not going to. Thankfully though, earlier this year, the remastered version of Modern Warfare was released as a standalone, which is what should have been done in the first fucking place. Assholes!
Idiot!
Now, the story overall is quite a bit fictional. This is when Call of Duty started to become its own little fictionalized universe, because before it was set in the Second World War, so you could say that that was more non-fiction, whereas Modern Warfare, it actually takes a few artistic things. It uses its own artistic license in a way, and by that what I mean is when Modern Warfare came out back in 2007, it was actually set in the near future, which is now in the past. Sounds very confusing, I know, but that is how it happened. It was so good that it spawned 2 more sequels, Modern Warfare 2 and Modern Warfare 3. For the most part, I think that the campaign is really good. The story, it is believable. Now, I said the story is good, but in reality, it's basically you fighting terrorists. Of course, the world we live in today, unfortunately, has this, so that's where the term Modern Warfare comes into play. There's so many good moments in this game. If I pinpointed all of them, it would take me hours. The controls are more fluid here than ever before. The voice acting, I think, is superb. Billy Murray voices Captain Price, who surely is a descendant of the Captain Price from the first 3 games. I don't know. There are many other characters that you will come to know and love throughout the campaign. The music is pretty decent as well. Of course, I can't do a review of this game without talking about what is considered by a lot of Call of Duty fans to be the best mission of all time. yeah, it's just awesome. This game took Call of Duty to a new level, and 10 years later, it is still so awesome. I consider this to be one of the best first-person shooters of all time. It has everything. It has great graphics, which were made even better in a remaster. It has a great campaign, which actually does make some sense, even if it is fictional. We have some great controls, great weapons, which also make sense, and we have a great multiplayer, which you and your mates can play for hours on end. I won't go into too much of the specifics about this again, but this is another reason alone why to buy this game. I'm shit on veteran mode against the bots on multiplayer though. After this game came out, there were further leaps and bounds for the series. World at War was released next in 2008 and took us back again to World War II, and that was arguably, well, it's personally for me, the best Call of Duty to be set in the Second World War. It also introduced the first ever so famous Nazi zombies, which have since been used in many of the other games that followed. Then we got further entries in the Modern Warfare subseries. Now, Modern Warfare 2, I might actually prefer to this. Then we got the Black Ops subseries, which started off really great, but somewhere down the line, it got a bit ridiculous because the developers decided that everything should be set in the future with robots, and then we go into space. Seriously, what the fuck were they thinking when they came up with Infinite Warfare? It's horrible! Even the Nazi zombie segment is an abomination compared to the original World at War version. And that shouldn't even be happening because World at War came out like 8 years before this. Most people these days, they buy Call of Duty games not just for the campaign. They buy it purely just for the multiplayer and other modes such as Nazi zombies. So that's my review of this gem. As you can see, I've got this for Xbox 360, which is now in the last gen. But don't worry, it has been re-released in the current generation. But of course, you have to buy infinite shit in order to play this game. So that's my review of Call of Duty Modern Warfare. Guys, I hope you enjoyed it. Stay tuned next time for the Christmas edition of James Games. And I'll see you then. Bye for now.